Welcome back to another construct series. In this series we take popular game mechanics and try and implement them into construct. In this video we're looking at the RTS genre and having the ability to click on troops and move them around a battlefield. If you want to follow along with this tutorial, you can make your own map, or this starting file is available in my Google Drive, which you'll find a link for in the description below. So how do we get started with this? Well, first thing we need to do is take our troops friendly. We're going to give them a behavior. And the behavior we want to give them is pathfinding, and this is going to be our key for moving around the battlefield. We also want to take our mountains, and we're going to edit the behaviors, and we're going to give it the solid behavior. This just means that our pathfinding will always try and find a way around the mountains and will never go through them. We need a couple of other things before we continue. So the first thing we want is our mouse. Our mouse is going to be our key thing of moving around. And then for our troops, we want to enable a couple of things. So first thing we want is what's called an instance variable, and this is going to be a boolean. So if I just delete this one and show you how I set this up. So this is called selected, and this is going to tell us which troops we've clicked on and which ones we haven't. By default, we've not clicked on any troops, so we can leave that as false. The other thing that we want to do is we just want to edit the effects. I'm going to add a new effect called tint. Now, tint will change the color of our troops. You'll see at the moment they've highlighted red. I'm going to change this to be green for something a bit more friendly. And this just shows that our troops are being clicked on. So by default, they won't be any color. And when we click on them, they'll highlight green like they are now. So let's go to our event sheet and let's start our basic code. So first thing we want to do is add a mouse on object clicked. I'm going to collect our troops. We're going to take that boolean that we had before, we're just going to put it on true to say that this troop has now been selected because we've clicked on it. We also want to do the opposite of this, and we want to unselect our troops. So we're going to do this by using the mouse, say click, and on right click, we're just going to take that same variable, we're going to set it to false. So scroll down, set boolean, and to false. So we've got a way to select our troops and to deselect them. We also want a way for us to select where they're going to move to. And for this, we're still going to use the left click. So we're going to say on click, left click, and we want to be able to distinguish between us clicking on a troop and us clicking on where we want the troops to go. So easy fix for this is add another condition. I'm going to say mouse, cursor over object, and troop friendly. And then we're just going to click and invert this to say if we've clicked and we're not hovering over a soldier. We need one final condition to say troop, and we're going to see if the boolean selected is true. This means it's only going to apply to troops that are selected, and then we can get them to start looking for a path. So troop friendly, scroll down, and they're going to find a path to mouse.x and mouse.y. So once they found that path, we can click. So we've got a little bit of code called onPathFound. Then we can get our troop to follow and move along that path. Now this is all ready to test. Before we test it, we want to make it really clear what's select and what's not, and that's where that effect comes in. So we're just going to add troop friendly, scroll down, is boolean set, so selected, is that true? If so, we can go back to our troop, scroll down and set effect enabled. The effect we want to be enabled if they're selected, and the effect is called tint. Then we can take this block of code, copy and paste it. I'm going to invert the selected, and we're going to disable the effect now. So let's do our very first test of what this looks like. So now I'm able to select troops and they highlight. If I right click, they become disabled. I can click where I want them to go and they'll move to that position. I can click on this troop separately and get them to move. And I can select all three if I want and get them to move to where I want. Now you see there's a bit of a grouping issue. That's something we'll solve after. And you also see that we're able to freely move through the water. Now I want my troops to move through the water, but I want this to be a slower route, and I want the pathfinding to take that into consideration as well. So let's sort the water out next. So we're going to add a new event, system, and this is going to be on start of layout. What we're then going to add is our troop friendly. Scroll down to our pathfinding settings. We've got one called add path cost. So this is going to be for our water. And playing around this, I found 20 worked the best. This means that when it's looking for the best path to find, when it's looking through water, it will add 20 to the route, making it less desirable for the troops to go that way. We also want to add a penalty if the pathfinding decides to go through the water. So we're going to add an event. We're going to say if our troop is overlapping the water, then we want to take our troop, scroll down, I'm going to set the max speed to 100. Now by default, the pathfinding sets it to 200. If you're not sure, click, and you can see your pathfinding settings there. So I'm going to do half of that, but we can play around with those numbers. I'm also going to copy and paste this code, invert the water, so I'm saying if we're not overlapping the water, and put our max speed back to 200. So let's do our next test to see what this looks like. So now I'm going to select my troops, I'll select these two, and I'm going to click on the other side of the water. You'll see they'll go through them, but they're much slower. Now if I click over this side of the water, you'll see they actually go around. If I select over this far side of the water, again, they'll choose to go around the water instead of go to it. And then finally, if we do one more test, they're still going around the water at the moment. Our final test will send them to this top corner. You'll see there's a really long way around the water, or they can just cut through. They'll choose to cut through it instead because it's the slightly quicker way. So now we've got some reasons that troops might want to go different ways. Our final issue that we need to sort is the fact that they all cluster together and group up. That's probably one of the hardest problems to solve, but there is a way to solve it. What we're actually going to do is add two brand new behaviors to our soldiers. So the first one is the solid behavior, and the second one that we want is the custom behavior. And both of these are going to be really useful. So when moving along path, we want to actually take the troop friendly and we want to disable the solid behavior. Then what we want to do is add a new event, and we want to say troop on arrived. So this is when it's finally got to its position. Then we want to take that, go back to our solid behavior, and just re-enable it. So anytime it's not moving, it's not solid. When it arrives, it is solid. We can then use a nice little bit of code that says if we're overlapping another soldier, we can go to our soldier once more, and in the custom behaviors there's this really useful one called push out of solid, and we've got loads of options here. We want it to move to the nearest possible position that's no longer overlapping, and hit done. Now if we test this, this will work slightly better than what we had before, but it won't be perfect. So let's have a look at what it looks like. You see sometimes they move away from each other and then they group up and they're overlapping a little but not as much. And if we move once again, you see they group up less. So this works sometimes, but sometimes we still get a little bit of overlap. Now trying to get rid of all the overlap can be really, really difficult, but there is one more thing that we can do to help with this. So what we're going to do is take our pathfinding code at the top here, double click on it, and instead of looking for the position mouse X, mouse Y, we're actually going to look for somewhere around that range instead of that exact position. So we're going to take random, we're going to do mouse.x, and we're going to minus 20 from it. On the other side of random, we're going to do mouse.x, and we're going to add 20. So this will look for a position either 20 away in the X or 20 above in the X from where we clicked. And this will be completely random. We can do the same for the Y. And this gives us a random radius around our point. And this makes it less likely that our troops are going to bunch out of each other. So minus 20 and mouse.y plus 20. So we can hit done. And this little change will make it less likely that they're going to group up, but we can test it once more. And again, this will not always be perfect. You see this time they didn't even try to overlap because they all picked random positions. You see this one actually went through the water that time because of that. Click back over here, and we're getting no bunch up whatsoever. And again, we can move these individually if we want. We can right click off. So if you've enjoyed this video so far and you followed along, please give it a like, comment and subscribe, and come back next week for part 2.